Hello, welcome to Kitchen Basics 101, where I teach you the bare bone basics as if you've never cooked a day in your life from the perspective of a mom. Today is very exciting. We're making chocolate pizzelles today. One of my husband's favorite things in the world is chocolate. He's going to be very excited. First step is you're going to melt 1 cup, 8 ounces of butter in the microwave on the stove any way you want to melt it, but you want it to completely cool before you add it. So that's why it's step 1. Even if there's like a little bit of solid, just leave it. It will be completely melted. I'd rather do it a little less than too much, okay? So we're gonna set that aside. We're gonna crack 6 eggs. I'm using a measuring cup just to show you, but I think you should anyways, because this way, if you have a bad egg or something goes wrong, you know what I mean? You can just dump it out. I just think it's easier. So 6 eggs into whatever vessel you like, but it can be in your mixing bowl. I'm using a stand mixer. You can use a hand mixer. You can mix by hand with your own hands. I'm just gonna beat together the eggs for a minute until they become completely like scrambled eggs, homogenized. Once the eggs are fully combined, I'm gonna slowly add in 2 cups of sugar, and I'm gonna do it a half a cup at a time, just to give it a chance to completely mix in before I add the next one. So this step is kind of important to get the right consistency of the dough. We're looking for a total of 2 cups of sugar. So that is 2 half cups. That's 1 cup of sugar. I'm gonna let that completely combine before I add any more. You can use anise or you can use vanilla. I'm gonna use vanilla. So I'm gonna do 2 tablespoons of this vanilla paste, but this could also just be regular vanilla extract. And I'm gonna add that to the eggs and the sugar. 2 tablespoons, which is a lot, but it's gonna make a lot. Now, hopefully your melted butter has cooled enough that you're going to slowly drizzle it into your eggs and your sugar, okay? You don't wanna cook our eggs. We don't want scrambled eggs. We wanna make sure that this butter is cooled to room temperature before you do this, or close to room temperature. All right, that's how it should look, completely combined. Now we're gonna do our dry ingredients. You don't have to use a sifter like I've told you guys before. You could use like a strainer to put it through. You could use a whisk to fluff it up. You don't have to use a sifter. I have a sifter, but you don't need to go out and grab one. Err on the side of less flour than more flour. Do not compact your flour down. Scoop it gently, okay? We're gonna do it. The recipe calls for 3.5 cups of flour, but I'm gonna be honest, we're using a little cocoa powder, so I think that's gonna be too much. So I'm gonna do like 3.25 cups of flour. I did 3.25 cups. It calls for 3.5, but I just think we're gonna add that cocoa powder. It's gonna be just a little bit dry, and I live in the desert where it's already super dry, so I'm not gonna do that. Then you're gonna do 4 teaspoons of baking powder. I almost said soda. Baking powder, not baking soda. How many was that? Shoot. We're gonna add a half a cup of unsweetened cocoa powder. Yum, delicious. This just happens to be Ghirardelli, which is yummy, but you can use any cocoa powder you want. Look at how rich and dark and delicious. Half a cup of that. I got it all over the counter. And in this case, if you're a little over, which I am a little bit over, that's okay. It's cocoa powder, right? We're gonna put all of that in the sifter. It just barely fits. And then the best part, the sifty part. I love this part. You'll see it helps really combine all the ingredients together too, all of our dry ingredients. And then we're gonna turn our mixer back on to low. Again, if you're doing this by hand, that doesn't matter. If you're using a hand mixer, it's harder to do. But we're just going to add the dry ingredients slowly to the wet. My mixer on stir, and I drop in like a scoopful at a time into the mixer. I just feel like it combines beautifully. It gives the mixer sort of a chance in between scoops. It doesn't add it too quickly. So that's my method. You can do it however you want to do it, but that's how I do it. And we're just gonna mix until it's combined. We don't want to overmix. We just want to get it so all the dry ingredients are incorporated into the wet ingredients. That's how your batter should look when it's fully combined. Yum, it looks like brownies. To take it off the mixer and give this all a good scrape, and then just give it a stir or two by hand with your spatula, just to make sure that you don't have any little bits of dry ingredients stuck anywhere. There's always going to be a little bit on the top of the paddle. And just make sure that everything is well combined. Everything looks chocolatey and delicious. If you're the one doing the dishes, this is a good opportunity to give your paddle just a little rinse. While it's still moist, give it a little bit of a rinse, because once this stuff gets stuck on, it's like cement and it's hard to get off of your paddle. So I'm just going to give it a quick little stir. I'm going to show you it's a very, very sticky dough. Very sticky dough consistency. Very much like brownies. Okay? Me personally, I like to give it a little bit of a chill before we put it in the Pizzelle iron. I just think that it helps the dough to hold its shape. It doesn't come squishing out of the iron. And I think it also just helps them be a little bit more chewy than crispy. If you like them crispier, do them right from here. If you like them chewy, let's put it in the fridge for a few minutes while we get ready for everything else. Okay, this is a Pizzelle iron. I have one listed just in case, but you can get any Pizzelle iron you want. It is thinner than a waffle iron. So if you have a waffle iron that really doesn't work, I tried it. You can look on my page, but it really doesn't work. This is a Pizzelle iron. I plugged it in. It's electric, and I'm letting it get hot while I'm chilling my dough, and we're going to get started. I'm going to show you how to make them. I'm going to try to use my 1 tablespoon scoop today. You're going to put the scoop behind the center of the circle because it's going to smush down. So don't put it on the circle and don't put it in front of the circle. Put it behind the circle. We'll see if this is easier or if it's better for me to use 2 spoons. I can tell already the dough's too sticky. Probably going to go back to using 2 spoons. All right, you're going to close this gently and you're going to cook it for about 45 seconds. Okay, that's 45 seconds. I'm going to show you again with my 2 spoons method. So you're just going to take a tablespoon and put it behind the circle so that it has room to smush. Behind the center. Okay. Gently close and put your timer on for like 40-45 seconds. The chocolate ones are definitely harder to tell if they're cooked because you can't look to see if they're brown. You just have to be like, okay, it holds together, so it's probably cooked. And you're going to pull them off and just put them somewhere to cool. I'm about halfway through, maybe a little bit less, making the batter, and I just wanted to taste them for you and show you what they look like. They're still quite, this one's too warm. They're still quite warm. When they cool, they'll become more rigid. The chocolate ones are a little bit more on the crispy side, but you'll see they're still kind of soft. If you store them with a piece of bread, they'll stay softer, or if you live in a humid climate, they'll stay softer. These have a beautiful, rich, chocolatey cocoa flavor. You can sprinkle them when you serve them with a little bit of powdered sugar. So beautiful. Let me actually show you that. If you saw my regular Pizzelle video and you saw how many were on the plate, you can really see how many were eaten in the process of making the Pizzelles. Here's all the chocolate ones. This is pretty much the whole batch. A couple of them were eaten along the way. I'm just going to show you. This is not how I would display them. I would put less of them onto like a, pretty little Christmas platter. But if you want to powder sugar them, I just put a little powdered sugar in a sieve and I just tap it like this to give a little sprinkle of powdered sugar. And if you want designs, right, like a snowflake or a little bear or something, you can lay down like a cutout piece of paper of a snowflake and then just sprinkle this over top and then lift up that snowflake, and then you would have a little powdered sugar design on them. Okay? So just thought I'd show you. This is not how I would display them. I would display less of them at a time, but I just wanted to give you an idea of how many it makes and how to add the powdered sugar to the top if you wanted to, because they're just so beautiful with a little dusting of powdered sugar on top. Happy holidays!